Welcome to Identity Unboxed, where we provide mentorship and promote representation for Black professionals and the advancement of the Black community.
We are seeking guidance from exceptional Black leaders, scholars, and professionals with expertise in their respective fields.
We hope to foster a space that promotes authenticity, inclusivity, and restoration for our listeners while exploring the intersection of our personal and professional lives.
This project is a culmination of our lived experiences as young Black professionals to transform our life trajectories, to overcome adversity, and reach triumph.
Our intention is to inspire you on your path to discovering your purpose. Well, good morning, Lynnwood. We are so grateful to have you here on Identity Unboxed for a bonus episode. You are currently the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer at ReachTV. You're a board member at Prevent Child Abuse America, founding partner and CEO of the Invictus firm. And today we will be discussing funding, founding, and faith, Black and venture capital as a funder and founder. And just a little bit about you. Lynnwood Bibbens is a serial entrepreneur and the CEO and founder of ReachTV. As CEO, Bibbens has taken a leadership role in identifying new markets and opportunities for the ReachTV Network, resulting in the company's seminal sales, distribution, and partnership deals with world-class traditional and digital media and technology powerhouses. Bibbens has led the company's direction and growth from a national to an international network with a reach of over 100 million viewers on the go. Prior to ReachTV, Lynnwood developed solutions for the media and entertainment industry, integrating multiple dynamic content platforms that use proprietary technology that enable top-tier brands to better understand their clients. He has teamed up with syndication partners AOL, Yahoo, Google, Roku, Opera, Xbox, Dish, Comcast, Verizon, Adobe Scripts, and Amazon. Mr. Bibbens was the producer and executive producer of Celebrated, an entertainment bio-series culminating in 6 seasons, which was sold in the U.S. and around the globe. He has produced both daily and episodic television focused on entertainment, sports, and news. Earlier in his career, Bibbens founded and sold several technology and e-commerce companies focused on computers and consumer electronics with combined revenues eclipsing $2 billion. He has the ability to oversee the needs of manufacturers, distributors, brands, and consumers, and as such has formed long-term relationships with corporations and investment banks such as Samsung, CBS, Toshiba, Verizon, Vizio, Amazon, SunTrust Bank, Morgan Stanley, Guggenheim, and Comcast, to name a few or a lot. Lynnwood also sits on the board of multiple firms, both public and private, along with being the chairman of ReachTV. Mr. Bibbens appears regularly on TV, speaks at conferences, and is writing his first novel. And with that very long introduction, I'll get into our first question. In 2016, you acquired CNN's airport distribution network in airports across the country, bringing dynamic content to travelers while benefiting creatives directly through strategic partnerships by founding ReachTV, the largest in-airport TV network, reaching over 100 million viewers. Can you take us back to the moment you were inspired to pursue this endeavor and describe how you propelled your vision to fruition?
Yes. Well, first, thank you for having me on. And I think I'm a little tired after hearing that bio. But I gotta go. I need a break. I want to make sure that it's clear. I launched Reach TV in 2016. We acquired CNN in 2021, and we went through the deal points in January 5th. We closed March 31st. So, like in literally a little over 60 days, closed that deal. And go all the way back to why Reach TV. Why did that come about? Number one, I saw an opportunity in the market. I came from hardware technology, and then did film and television finance. And looking at the both of those, I saw the most powerful companies being companies I work with in the tech side were now dominating the media side, and that technology was a platform for media to be delivered and advertising to be delivered. So when I looked at it as the tech, media, advertising world were all coming together as one. And when you look at the film, finance, and structuring side, I use a phrase that a lot of people now are copying, but I use it a lot, was content may be king, which is what I heard a lot when I went into the film and finance side, but distribution's emperor. And I think a lot of people making content, nobody's seeing their content because they don't have the proper distribution for that piece of content. And social media has been a great equalizer, but that takes time to build up that type of audience. That takes time to get your content in front of all those people. And so from an investment standpoint of television and in films, you had that really good distribution, or made you made a very expensive thing that nobody sees. So, when I was in that process, I kept seeing something called non-theatrical, which meant anything that wasn't digital, SVOD, AVOD, and traditional television. I saw it as an opportunity because it wasn't a clear definition. And I also had done work with Netflix. I used to sell them DVDs back in my hardware days. So, what I saw in 2000, I think it was 11, when they called, but maybe it's earlier than that, when they called me and said, "Hey, we're going to be a streaming company." I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but go ahead, have fun. And I'm like, the DVD guys are going to do something else. So, anyways, when they did it, at first they were buying TV rights, and that was very expensive, and it didn't help them build up a library. What they did was they created a new window called SVOD, right? And that's subscription VOD. Why did they do that? So one, they have their own window, that the new vertical that they created. Number two, the reason they did it is to save cost on content and to get a windowing of that content, so they don't have to pay the full price of their whole entire content, or have the ability to monetize across other verticals. So this is a long way to tell you that when I started Reach, the goal was, how do I get creators? So I built a network that could reach an audience at scale that would allow creators to make content and own their own IP. That was literally my thesis, was creating something so that creators can own their IP. Specifically, I was looking at um, creators that looked like me, and creators that were friends of mine, creators that just would walk in a room, and I was on the other side of the table, and I watched them have this great idea, and I watched them own nothing. And I thought that didn't make sense. And I thought if they had distribution, they could have more power. And then you could really have your own creator led economy, where the person that creates this beautiful IP and these structures actually owns a part of it and gets to monetize throughout the experience. So we went on this journey. When the business plan, which I still have, says if we can build a network inside the travel ecosystem, the network would be invaluable. So it would just have infinite value. So that was our goal. We also knew that travel and tourism made up, at that time, 10% of global GDP and 10% of US GDP. It was 10% of all jobs in the US. So we started looking at that type of number. 11 trillion dollars across the globe, 1.1 trillion in the US at that time. Those are really cool numbers to be able to build something inside of. So that's how we started the journey. It was an interesting journey because I've built and sold other companies. So, but that's how we started. That was that was the genesis of it. And that's what really got the got the ball rolling. I can't believe it's almost 9.5 years later, but this is where we are now.
That is absolutely fascinating just to hear, like, the innovation that you had when you identified the opportunity for a rights window, and also empowering creatives to actually own their work, because often, like you said, it's difficult for creatives to not only get into the rooms, but also get the buy-in from those major companies like Netflix, Hulu, HBO, to even, show a show for a few seasons. And so that's so great that they're able to, like, directly be able to showcase their work with Reach TV. And I was hoping to rewind a little bit about how you kind of got into like the tech space, and then also had that interest in supporting creatives, particularly creatives of color. Of course, we did our background on you, and I know that you studied finance and everything, but could you kind of take us back to like your early college days and what you were thinking career wise, and then how you decided to pivot from maybe not doing the traditional 9 to 5 to your own personal endeavors?
Yeah, back in college, I wanted to be an accountant at first. I thought I was going to be an accountant. I love numbers. I love playing with numbers. One of my favorite classes in high school, my favorite teacher, Mrs. Austin. So I used to love numbers and accounting. Went to college, and it was funny. My first summer after college, I was home. I saw this thing that said $10 an hour. That's how old I am. That was a lot of money. That's like you guys seeing something that says $30 an hour, I guess, something like that. I have no idea what it is. That's how long ago it was. But we took it, went, and it was selling Cutco knives. So those are the knives. If you guys aren't familiar, people at the demo, they cut the penny, they cut the leather. It's great. By the way, I still have those knives, so they're amazing. The knives, everybody I sold them to still loves them. It's a great lesson in that. You know, when you sell something of quality, you never have to worry about if people are mad at you for selling it. I have people now still to this day when I see them like, yo, I just replaced this and I just got this sharpened and that. So what I loved about Cutco knives is it taught me that I can be in the room with anybody. So it forces you to get referrals. And I went to my friends' parents. But what started happening is it opened up my personality and it opened up me the ability to feel. And I analyzed this later to give you the ability to feel like you belong in the room and that no room can you not be in. So some of my friends' parents were CEOs of this and board members of that, and I'm in their house in their living room or outside, showing them how to use the knives. You'd be maybe they're not a great cook, but the knife fits so well, nobody would know about it. Right? So like I would make jokes like that. So it ended up becoming where even to this day, I'm friends with a lot of my friends' parents as much as I am with them because I was able to actually feel that we could talk on the same level. Once you start to realize the capabilities and the possibilities, I sold like $25,000 worth of knives in the summer. So I got all the way up to the top level. And I never even thought of myself as a salesperson or somebody would be able to be successful in that. So once those possibilities are opened, you start to realize as an entrepreneur. So what was the cool part about that summer? Not only did I do all those things, not only did I get to meet and really, kind of really engage with friends' parents and build up my own referrals, I got to play I got to learn a little bit of time management. I was making more money than anybody in college cared to make. So I was like, I like beach volleyball. I'm gonna go play beach volleyball in West Long Branch. I'm gonna do my schedule, my meetings at this time. And there's a freedom and the comfort of knowing you did that, right? There's nobody else that did this for you. There was nothing else in there. So that part instilled the confidence in me to think about, all right, what else do I want to, what else can I do? If I can do this, what else can I do? And that led to, I asked, how does I asked my manager who was running the office. I'm like, how do I get an office? And he's like, you're pretty aggressive. I'm like, well, if you did it, I could do it, right? So how did you do it? And then there was a training program. So I was in that for the fall, for the winter break. Instead of hanging out, I was doing training. And then I opened my own office the next summer and ran that all summer. And we came in like third, I think, in the east, in the whole eastern region. So I had a great time and I learned when you run your own office, you learn how to negotiate the lease, hire everybody, payrolls and structures and awards and managing. The funniest part is I was managing people I went to college with. I was out at Westchester hanging out and literally doing my interviews. I had to put on like kind of fake glasses because I'm like, this dude was just at a house party with me like 2 weeks ago. So he go through the whole interview process, I hire him. About a week later, and goes, I think I've seen you in college. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we're friends. We're both friends with my buddy Todd. He's like, oh my God, you're like literally right next to me. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. I saw you do cake stands. But anyways, so it's that confidence that came from doing something I never even thought I could do. And once those possibilities were opened up, it opened it up around. So I became known as the Ginsu man, the Knife man, but I also became known as very, very organized. And so when I was leaving college, friends of mine owned a company called American Wholesale in Delaware. And they had said, hey, man, like our whole back end is unorganized. We need some help. And I was like, oh, well, they're like, you don't even know what you're going to do. Come help us. We'll all hang out. We'll have fun. So it was like a bunch of people I went to college with, all work in the same place. All right, let's do it. So I go down and what we're supposed to take me 6 to 12 months, took me like 3 months. And then I was like, all right, what is this thing? And it was for reference of size, take two laptops side by side, the biggest ones, put two more on top of it, then put a handle on top of that. That's with the leading edge laptop. And I was like, this thing is humongous. So I immediately, we had a mail order company, so people would call in. Of course, I immediately bombed taking those calls. I was messing up things. They're like, no, 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 stop, get off the phone. And but I learned it. I wanted to be a student of it, wanted to understand if he could sell. I mean, I know better sales guy than that guy. So the next thing I know, within 6 months, I was the number one sales guy, and within a year, instead of leaving, I became a partner. And that was a different story because I knew they couldn't afford to pay my commission in the structure I was winning at. So I was like, why don't we just? And I went to a professor at college who said, well, if you're that valuable, tell them to make you an equal partner. That started that entrepreneurial spirit of really doing it. And then when a couple of years later, we were doing over 30 something $1 million out of Delaware, doing trade shows on the weekends. And we just ended up selling it, but not. And it was the first time I learned on M&A, on how to structure M&A and what to think about. And your reason for selling is not somebody else's reason for buying. And most people don't ask those questions to understand what the reasoning is. And because if you figure that out, you can sell for more money. And if they figure out what your reason is, they can maybe buy you for less money. So that's why they say it's more art than it's just science. You got to know the balance between those spots. And a professor really helped me figure out our value to get a better value for our company than we thought it was going to be. So that was great. Um, and that was my journey. That was hardware, technology, um, I loved it, being in that space, building the business from doing like 100,000 a month to doing millions a month. And it was great. It was an amazing experience. Also got my first bit of how we advertised. We advertised in a book that you guys would know about now, but it used to be about this thick. It's called Computer Shopper. And they would tell you a half a page, black and white, in this book. They can tell you with precision how much revenue you're going to do. You're going to be doing 1.1 to 1.4 million. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, if you buy this ad, this is what you'll get revenue. And they were pretty accurate. I mean, the first time we tried to buy an ad, they said we weren't ready. They came down to our offices, walked through our infrastructure, and said, this isn't ready. You need to do this, 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 and this. We'll be back in 30 or 60 days. You tell us how fast you can move. Yeah, I'm back in 30. And they said, okay, be ready. And they weren't. It was that was a company called Ziff Davis that owned it. The guy that ran it became a mentor to me on understanding that space was Al DeGuido, and some really helpful people that are still known to this day. Kirk McDonald, Katie Cullig, and Colleen Daly. But people that I kept in touch with, they're probably a little tired of me asking so many damn questions, but I like to understand what's going on. Um, they're like, are you trying to get a job with us? I'm like, no, I just want to understand exactly what you're doing so I can be better at what I do. And I think that was kind of how I really got into it. I started to really enjoy the process of it.
Wow, thank you so much for that. That's really inspiring, especially it's like to me personally to see how you really built that discipline through that hard work and you had that entrepreneurial spirit pretty early on and you utilize your resources and the networks around you. I know you mentioned that you were friends with your friends, and you weren't afraid to ask people for help and advice. And like you said, there's value in building something for yourself and it was inspiring for you to say like, hey, if I can do this, what else can I do? And you didn't let, anything stop you. You saw that sky is the limit if you just do the work and stay consistent. And I was wondering if you could speak more to the importance of like mentorship for young folks who might have a dream or a goal, but are afraid to maybe utilize networks or ask questions and things like that. Can you speak to the importance of that and how it impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always torn on that question, right? I had this not debate, really a conversation with a friend of mine about this mentorship, right? Because I think some people use it as a way to say they want to be mentored, but they don't. And others really lean in. I never used a word that, but I had some amazing ones that randomly happened out of me doing the hard work and asking for advice. Meaning, I met who I think should be talked about more, one of the greatest leaders and black executives, but just executives in general. And then he happened to be black. His name was Dick Parsons. If you don't know who he is, that's a crime anyway. He should be talked about in every book, everywhere. And I remember meeting him in early 2000. It was early 2000, late 90s. And he was at the time AOL and bought Time Warner. And it was called AOL Time Warner, but they kind of unraveled and said, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. So Dick Parsons became the chairman of everything and was tasked with reorganizing the world the right way and really fixing the business. And I remember watching him and being in a room about another deal we were working on and seeing him understand how to motivate, but manage executives in a tough situation, his transition, the transition back, and the grace he gave. And so when I wanted a question from him, what I did was I prepared a bunch of things and said, I would love 15 minutes for you to just look at this. And what do you think? That led to come up to New York, come to my office here, and let's sit down. I had an hour meeting where he walked me through scenario one you gave is great, but did you think about this and this and this? Because then it would have ramifications on this and this. Scenario two is great, but I think one has more side. Scenario three is really interesting. You need to coordinate with a whole nother company to really accomplish that. Is that your goal? And then we went into no, I was thinking about acquiring this company that I found that they were running this. And he's like, oh, I like this idea. So it when I say mentorship, it's like you have to bring most people that you want to be mentored by are super busy. So what are you doing to prepare for that mentorship meeting? Don't just walk in and say, how do I do these things? It's the preparation and the work. I feel like sometimes the thing about social media that bothers me is I feel like people think it's overnight. That's in a movie, and that's not in real life. In real life, we used to say back in the day, you have to carry water and chop wood. This was everyday grind. This is working, and these are mini steps every day. You're getting 1.1% better every single day, and next thing you know, those things add up and 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 compound on each other. And when I look at that, I ask people if they want to be mentored, what have you done to deserve that? What work have you put into it? Have you even looked at what that person does? I get people emailing me about just make up a random thing, and I'm like, do you know who I am? Like, I've nowhere ever done anything of that nature. And they're like, I know that you've done this. I'm like, when? Where? I wish I would have done that, but I didn't do that. No, that wasn't me. I did not break open cells in the biology class. And no, I didn't do that. That's not me. Sorry. But that is, I think, knowing to be a mentor, to be mentored, you have to do the work. And to be mentor someone, I take that kind of serious because that's adjusting someone's life or making some helping them make decisions in their life. So I don't take that lightly, so I don't do it often. I do it if I'm doing a one-on-one, it's very intense and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I did that same thing the other way, and it helped me tremendously. So I would just encourage people looking for mentors. You don't need 20. You probably won't have time for 20 if you're doing the work the right way. You need to find somebody who's in a position you want to be in, somebody else who's maybe done the things you've done, maybe you know what I mean, and similar path, or just something that you want to dream. You want to hear how somebody who's a dreamer and how they mentally work. Like I'm not in the same business as a lot of people that come to me, but they like the way my brain is working on things. So we talk about, you know, a lot of athletes have the same mentality as business people. People don't think about it that way, but if you think about what an athlete is trying to do, what a business is trying to do, they're actually very similar. The athlete's working for himself and or for a team, and so are you. Just it's called a business, right? And so, I think that's where the mentorship to me is very personal because it is time. And I think the one thing you never can get back in life is time. So I focus on time is like I'm up at 5, I work out, I block off time so nobody can talk to me. I don't take calls. I don't do meetings at certain times. Just time to me is, I don't want anybody, if I'm giving up my time, that means it means something. And I'm not, and the other person, I think it's disrespectful to come to somebody else's meeting not prepared, not not cognizant of their time. So I would say this to all the people that want to be mentored or people that are mentoring people: be cognizant of everyone's time, whether you're a mentor, mentee, and do the work prior so that it can be really something that you get a lot out of. That is my advice, and that's how I live. So if you come to me, I'm gonna ask what can I read prior so I can be prepared. What is the goal? What are you trying to do? I don't know. Great. Tell me what you're doing now. Lay it out for me. Like, what do you think? Why do you think I will be a great mentor to you? What is it that we're doing that is simple? I don't know. And so it's, as you can see, it's very important. My son is 27. He works for a friend of mine at Price Waterhouse. I mean, so he had these opportunities to ask me. Instead, he said, "Hey, can you set me up with your friend who does this? I want to understand this." Right. So he pivoted in college from a business thing to getting a 1 year accelerated program for finance. And boom, now he's at Price Waterhouse, working on deals. So I think we all have those ability to appeal, and we all have mentors probably closer than we think if we really just sit down and think about who we know.
I love all of that. That is so valuable, especially when you mention the importance of understanding your trajectory and having clarity on that, thinking about who has done what you're hoping to do, and also they could be a blueprint for you, but you actually have to be the one to do the work, show up prepared, do your research. Don't just show up to these meetings and expect that person to get you the job or to make that connection. You also need to show up equally in that partnership, in a mentorship relationship. Yeah, and just moving forward a little bit, you mentioned leveraging your networks, and it sounds like you've had self-efficacy early on, and also you've advocated for yourself and have listened to the advice of those that you've reached out to. And Reach TV has maintained partnerships with major corporations from the sports world, including the NBA, NFL, and WNBA, to Microsoft, American Express, and Hyatt, amongst many others. For aspiring startup founders looking to secure capital from recognized global brands, what key piece of advice would you give them?
First off, I would say always show up. Right. I'm going to give you three major steps of how those things happen. Number one, always show up, especially when it's bad. I've gone through some failure times. I've gone through things where things didn't work out. But guess what? My number's been the same for 33 years, and I always show up. Always. Didn't matter. I'm there. So there's a consistency. They know, good, bad, or different, I'm going to be there. You don't know how much valuable that is until 10 years later you run into the same person when something bad had happened. They go, "This guy always shows up," and you don't even have to do anything. So that's one of the things. I think when it comes to deals and structures, when it comes to companies, it's very much like I just talked about for mentors and mentees. You have to do the work. I've been in the room where I've seen somebody present to a brand. I was like, they literally say on page 3 of the thing they said that they don't care about that audience. You're literally putting your entire presentation around something they're not even focused on. So again, know who your audience is, and you're there to serve them. What can I do for you? How do I serve you? And once you know what they want, then how do you deliver it? And how do you make sure that you can deliver it? You got evidence that you can deliver it. You show proof that you can deliver it. And the failure of delivering it, this is how I'm going to fix it. You give them an answer to say yes is the easier path, not no. Right. And so that's another key as far as bigger brand, larger corporation partnerships. You- I'm going to spend a little longer time on this, so I'm going to skip it for a second when it comes to financing. Um, and I think relationships start on just being consistent and consistent across the board from don't get too high, too low. I think maybe everybody should start using this quote and I use it every day. So maybe I know I use it, but The sentence that needs to stay in your brain every single day is this too shall pass. Because you may be having an amazing day. And guess what? This too shall pass. And I'm not saying every day isn't great for me. Every day, my motto is if I'm breathing, I'm good. And anybody who knows me literally call me, some people call me in a day to day, and I know why. They call me to hear me say, they say, "How are you?" And I say, "I'm good. I'm breathing." They're like, "Good. That's what I want to hear." All right, I'll talk to you later. And we just hang up, right? It's that clarity of the simplicity that life, if I'm on this side of the ground, I can fix it. Right. And so if you come into life with that mentality, it's contagious and people really like it and the people are drawn to it. I have a deal that I've worked on, took 4.5 years. Now, did I do other stuff? Yes. But I was consistent in keeping the relationship while trying to figure out what can I do for them. What can I serve them? How can I deliver it? Can I show to them, improve to them I can deliver it? And how do I, in failure, still be able to deliver? Once I was able to capture all that, I finally got the deal done. Now, there's a lot of things on their end, probably. Was there some things on my end? 100%. But I think that consistency of not everything's going to pay off today. You got to know that I'm not building my company for today. I'm not building it for just this year. And my question sometimes to people is, are you going out of business next year? They're like, what are you talking about? No, of course not. I go, good. So what are we talking about? Let's figure out this thing for the next 3 to 5 years. How do we work together to build something? I'm not going nowhere. You're not going nowhere. Why are we doing something for 12 months? 12 months ain't enough. Let's take the next 36. What do we want to accomplish? Right. And so I think also being able to ask for those type of questions is scary because you don't know what they're going to ask, but it doesn't matter. Just deliver the service to be a really good partner. Now I'm going to jump to something that's not so easy: finance. Finance, and my answer to finance, it's sometimes controversial. Some people, because it's bearing in truth. Two things are true, and they can be true at the same exact time. Um, is it harder for Black founders to get money? The answer is 100% yes. Is it facts and is proven? Yes. But look at it. It's very easy to look up. I sold companies. I launched this. I went with this company to go raise money. And there was multiple companies that told me they needed me to prove them out. Now, there's other people who started their companies right around after, right after me or before me, very similar business plan, who's raised hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no other way to label it is that there is, and I've sold companies before, so they haven't even had done that. These are guys that are starting up. So there's a clear bias on when it comes to Black, brown, women entrepreneurs. We're made to prove our model, whereas the traditional white male entrepreneur, he can get it on what his potential is. And that's a big difference. One is proven, one is potential. Potential is when you're doing startups. Potential is how you can, I'll give you the best potential to success, which nobody really thinks about like this. But I give you three. And if you think about it, you're going to go, holy crap. Facebook, Amazon. If somebody didn't believe in the potential, those were not profitable businesses that made sense otherwise. They were losing billions of dollars, but they had investors that believed in the potential of Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff. And so they understood where they were going in the business and were investing on the potential that these guys would turn this around because the proof showed they were losing money. Right? So they don't, but we don't get that same grace. Do I think that there was somebody Black who could have built Facebook? The answer is yes. Do I think there's somebody Black that built Amazon? Undoubtedly, yes. You know, that's a barter system platform of trading things. That's what Black people grew up doing, right? So if you go back in history, that's a barter system is an easy system to figure out. Do think Amazon did some great things. And I'm one of the first customers back in the 90s. I was buying books and John Grisham books. So I'm a big, huge fan. But if you go back from an investment standpoint, that was years of losing money, years of people investing, years of going from this investment group, got them got them to A. This one said, I'll come in now, take you out and get you to B. Oh, I'll get you out and get you to C. There was multiple rounds of that happened, of beliefs and investment that we just don't get. And that is now the part that's controversial. I don't think anybody can dispute the first one, and nobody can dispute the second because the numbers are there. You can go look them up. Here's a third one that I think really is the crux of how you fix it. And that is, we need to have more Black people inside those rooms in the investment side. Because the truth of the matter is, it's just like right now. If I ask you guys, hey, I need 10 grand. Who are the first people you're going to call? People you know, people that you're friends with, people you're around. So if I'm now raising money and I go to my friend who's a private equity person who owns this, and my son's coming up and he wants to raise money, who am I going to? Oh, my guys that already own this. That is not a racist thing. Um, that's a flow of information. That's being in the right rooms. That's almost like a placism thing. But there's the only way that we to get that solved is to have more of us in the room, have them be a part of these LPs, could be in in the investment officer's seat, so that you can understand. And our culture is different, so some people don't even understand what we're doing. That's why you're starting to see brands starting to bring us in more because some of the things they're doing, like, yeah, that's not it. That doesn't. And I don't know if you know what that means to us. That's the opposite of what you think it means, right? So having um, more of us in rooms, having more of our capital, and then when we're in these rooms, making sure that we know how to get into the capital. There's also a bridge of legal, and nobody talks about the legal part. Legal structures, legal services are just not as available to us and not attractive enough to the investors. So I have companies that I've been helping who are legally set up incorrectly. I mean, they're just not set up for investment. I couldn't even invest in it because it's not investable, right? And then there's all kinds of things that weren't done and structured as weren't set up, weren't filed correctly. There's a lot of that as well, which seems minimal, but when most people start off, they don't have the CFO and they really don't have lead. They try to do it as cheap as possible, trying to improve it works. And that's where we got to find a way to provide that infrastructure so that every company's set up in the right way. Then we got to be able to take that structure of those companies set in the right way and give them the opportunity to be in front of the right people. Right. And then that's the process. And then I think the last thing is we need to understand and have, which people like me and other people around, starting to find ways to set up the infrastructure to scale. What is that ability to allow our brands and the minority owned brands, along with any other brand? But I'm saying, you talk about how can you make it much more fair, much more, not even fair, because fair, this is business, right? But like, it's more like where everyone has an opportunity if the product is right. Not just because of your color of your skin and the access you need to have a way of getting access to taking your business and getting it to scale. And technology has been a great equalizer for everybody. Like you could be on Instagram tomorrow and they could do this and you could put your things on YouTube and there's no barrier to entry. Um, but and I think that's the way that we can leverage that technology to scale out, getting distribution for our products, getting us scaled out in media, getting us scaled out in anything we want to really scale out to so that you can actually win. Um, and then I think it's just celebrating our people that actually are driving businesses. And, I saw a stat that it was kind of eye-opening to me. There's of all the media companies, only 1% of Black-owned media companies have more than 10 employees, and then only 1% of them, so only 1% have 10 employees, and then only 1% of that do 10 million or more. So you're at a 1% of 1% if you are a Black-owned media company with more than $10 million in revenue. I mean,
Yeah, the disparities are evident. Like,
that is
yeah.
that is that's the issue when it comes to getting content that's authentic and that's right and that's built and networks that are built. It's a cost-based business, and if you only have 1% of the 1% that has 10 million in revenue, it's not enough to cover those costs to be in those places and to build that type of thing. So, got to find a way to either use the technology to equal to lower the cost of the distribution, flip it the other way, and find a way to bring things together and make a bigger ecosystem. So, um, I look at those things all the time. From that economics side of it. How do you flow it through better? So that's a long answer, but it's very complicated for me, and I spent a lot of time thinking about what am I gonna do in 2 years, and one of my plans is I'm building these things now where I had a cashless fund at one point, and now I'm really structuring it so that there's Black-owned banks, there's, pension funds, others, so we can go from venture to PE to exit and allow people to be in stages through this ecosystem. So it's one of the things I do want to do the last part of my career.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I know that's going to be so valuable for our listeners to hear just a wealth of knowledge. And I love earlier that you mentioned, this too shall pass. Some days you might have a good day, sometimes you might have a bad day. You could have a good business year, a bad business year. Like you said, a lot of those top companies weren't seeing a return on investment or profit for a long time. And I'm sure it could be hard for some people to keep the faith, but it sounds like you just persisted on and again utilized your network and resources in order to continue to elevate what you wanted to do, even at times where I'm sure you weren't having the best business year or the most profitable times. And I feel like that, just leaning into that a little more leads good into our next question. In a recent social media post, you shared about navigating loss and finding your footing as an entrepreneur and a father. You mentioned that therapy, friends, and grace have allowed you to embrace the circuitous route of life. And as you reflect on your legacy, what is most salient to you, and how do you pave this out for yourself daily?
Um, well, I'm most probably proud of my son and the way, and how we bonded and what we do together. I think that I've always been a person of faith, um, and and grandparents that were very much, they went through real things, and I don't say that what we go through isn't real, but the racism and the things they went through is unimaginable to us, and the grace that they had, we're sitting on their shoulders, right? So you have to respect that. You have to have that same grace. To honor that, you need to have the same grace. Um, and what I learned mostly from them was, if you add up all those things, is that being a good person, being positive, is not a hard thing to do. It's actually a lifestyle, a way to do it. To wake up and be grateful and humble and great. And I say humble enough. You're allowed to be you, have swag, be him, be her. But I'm saying be grateful that you're above ground, right? And focus that no matter how bad yesterday was, if I'm here today, I can fix what happened yesterday. If it doesn't happen today, I can do it tomorrow. But I'm going to just keep going at this thing called life until I get to a place. And sometimes that also can lead to where you're struggling, you're trying to accomplish so much, and you just got to simplify your day. Sometimes I tell some people all the time. When I was a kid, my grandfather told me this: make up your bed. I was like, yeah, why do you keep telling me to make my bed? So every day you're accomplishing all right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, you wake up and you did something. Job one done. And you never know how mentally that changes you when you start to just be able to do that. So I have like 5 mini wins. I make my bed. I make my coffee, my pot of coffee. I grab the Wall Street Journal. I read the left side, all the highlights, pick which articles I'm going to read. These are just things I do. Check, check, check. They're mental. Check, 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 check. Workout. Boom. Check, check. That is, I'm done. I've done 5, 6, 7 tasks before people get up at 9 or 8 and whatever they're up. I'm already done with 6, 7 tasks. So I'm already having a good day. Right. And so, and I don't, you know, the this too shall pass is more, um, it's something you got to say to yourself and look in the mirror. And I think therapy for me was, um, I was taught to be more the quiet type on that side of the world. And I think most, especially like my age, we were taught that strength was, you know, holding it in and doing all these things. And I think I finally realized the workouts and everything else isn't the only outlet. You can actually speak to someone and get that another outlet. I could probably be better at that, but you know, it's still a process for someone like me to do it. And the fact that I even do it, I also found that I write when I talk. So a lot of times I am writing, um, and it's because my memory works that way. So if I write anything, I remember it. I can like I know my number when I grew up when I was a kid. Like I just this once I write something, I just it doesn't go away from me. So I write sometimes at night and then sometimes first thing in the morning. And those are also ways of just kind of level setting my like life, but also something that I know I can leave behind, which is grace and humbleness. But the fact that nothing or no one ever is going to stop you. The only person that can stop you is the person you look in the mirror. And if you believe that, then everything else is secondary. And if you believe that you have an impact on other people, then your answer is, what is that impact? Because I believe we all have an impact on each other. So then you're going to keep asking yourself, what impact am I making? Is it the one I want? And sometimes that's the hard question. You ask yourself that question and you'll find you to go, that's not really what I want to do. That's not how I want to be. That's not how I want people to remember me. I remember asking 10 people, tell me what you think of me. Honestly, what is your first thoughts? First 3 words that come to your mind. And some of it wasn't the greatest, right? You're like, oh shit. You're like, oh, you're abrupt. I'm like, do I feel like I'm abrupt? You know what I mean? Like, and this is, you know, and now you'll hear different things, right? And so it's good to have friends that you can ask honest questions and they'll give you honest answers. And they'll tell you when you're, oh man, you're always on your phone. Okay. No phones at dinner now. Right. Like how do you balance out the world we live in to a world of, you know, where you want to be? And I think that's all of our challenges, all of our things are. But I think just being a really good human, serving the people that you want, that you're partnered with, that your family, your significant others, your kids, um, and then, you know, I believe in something bigger than me. And I think there's a reason I'm here. And I think we all have a purpose. We just got to figure out what that purpose is and then live it daily. Not whenever it's convenient, but really live it daily. So it makes my life very simple. I have a life that looks very complicated, but it's really, really, really simple, because I keep it that simple, right? And I think that's there's a lot of stuff going on every day. You know, I have calls all day today and meetings, and but they're all simple. They're all part of a plan, and that plan for work is one thing. That plan for my life is another. That plan for, you know, my son is different. My plan for, you know, I will say this last thing. You know, we as people are starting to understand our power. Um, I saw some. I had, and this is a great thing, but I had an argument one time with Nielsen, and it wasn't a bad one. It was just that I wanted them to give me more information. You're the home of this data and everything, and they were like, "Yeah, we actually can." This is like right after George Floyd, and they're like, "You know what? We actually could do this." You know, so last year I read this report. And I'll send it to you, but it was an amazing report. Um, uh, I got it earlier this year. Yeah, early this year. African American community is driving over $1.7 trillion a year in economic impact in the U.S. Number two, uh, average age African community, African American community is 33.5. We have over 15% of our population under 35. So the question I was asking Nielsen, you see these two numbers I just told you. This is the question I asked, and then I got these numbers out of it. Now they didn't know this, but it answered my question. My question was, why does Black culture drive pop culture? Is there a data point that show me why Black culture drives pop culture? And I look at things on TV that are successful, they're rooted from Black culture, right? And then that becomes pop culture, and then that pop culture drives GDP. I wanted to understand why. Why are we savvy on online? Why are we on the digital? Why? And I, when you hear the economic impact, we spend our money, we do other things, and then you see that we have 50% of our population is under 35. Digital currency, got it. You just don't. They never had those numbers to understand. And then the next youngest age is Hispanic, and then the next youngest is Asian, and the next, but the oldest population is white. So now you're starting to see, oh, well, and that would be like me saying I'm a tech guy, being that I'm not on Snapchat. I tried to use it one time. I think I shot a picture of my foot and I said, I'm never doing it again. So that's my experience on Snapchat, right? Like that's it. I don't think it's that complicated, but at my age, my brain, I don't go past anything that just says, like, push a picture and then yes. Anything else, yeah, that's true. That's for y'all, right? And so what happened is when I see that, I start to understand now why and who is moving and the impact of that. So that's why I say it's important to know the numbers because those numbers can help you tell the story and then or justify the story that you know is true, but you didn't have the numbers to back.
That's so great. I feel like, yeah, you covered so much just in that. But yeah, going back to the beginning when you talked about kind of the metaphor for like making your bed every day, that's like one small little accomplishment that you can have. And I think like that gratitude is imperative for us to cultivate joy in our lives every day. And like you said, that progress is incremental. So even if your day, doesn't turn out the way that you're hoping or your week's just not great, that you still were able to hold yourself accountable and that you also have that, group of people around you, like you said, folks that will be honest with you. And I really appreciated that you're so transparent because even Brad and I, that's something we constantly discuss with ourselves. We really related to that when you're like asking people, what do you think about me? Like we do that ourselves and we're like, hey, how can we improve because we work so closely together? And we know that like sometimes our intent is not the impact, on the people that we're around. And so that for me was very eye opening. And then I also can tell that you are very analytical just in how you were describing, how Black culture influences pop culture and that like you really look at all the data points and everything. And so I think that's very helpful for our listeners to understand that you should break down what your ideas are, like what are you actually aiming for, and find those numbers behind that. So it's really great.
Yeah, and be careful that we're all storytellers, right? You're inspired by stories, the Bible stories, right? And when you think about the best things that inspire you, it's a story. So data points are used to help you illustrate or tell to hammer home the story you already told or the story you already painted. But I think we all have to go back to being really good storytellers. I think we're all regurgitating numbers versus telling a story and using the numbers as backup. I think that's when people use numbers only, they've lost the ability to tell a story. And I think we're starting to slide into that in so many aspects. So I encourage everyone to start to go back to your imagination, your storytelling, inspirational, aspirational. That's why I love travel. Travel is when you go to travel, it's aspirational. It's I'm going to go see this. I'm going to go there. I got this agenda, or I'm going to go see a friend, and I'm going to see family, or I'm going to a game, or I'm going to an event. People went to Beyonce in Paris. I'm in Paris and I'm seeing Beyonce. Like it's a whole vibe of what you want to do. Um, a friend of mine went and saw Oasis in London. It's his favorite band, and he was like, "This is in tears." Right? It's that's what I love about travel. That I just love it about life. But that's why travel is why I wanted to build this. Is This is the ecosystem that allows people to be aspirational throughout their entire life.
I thank you so much for that. I feel like you just shared so much wisdom for our listeners. And we know that you have to go here soon. And one thing that we ask all of our guests is, what does Blackness mean to you? Because, like you said, we've navigated so much adversity. Our ancestors have gone through so much. And here we are today accomplishing great things. You know, you're an example for young Black youth who aspire to be like you and to reach those heights. And so we wanted to know, in your life and your experience, what does Blackness mean to you?
I think I'm proud of knowing the real stories of our ancestors and what we've done and accomplished here. I think that you see me posting a lot that Black history is American history. There is no American history without Black history. Um, and I think honesty around those stories is the best policy, not trying to obfuscate what it is and sugarcoat it. I remember being in class and they would do slavery things, and I went to a predominantly white school, even though I lived in a Black neighborhood. That's the school they bused us to, and we would always be the ones that are staring at doing that class. It didn't affect my life. It's something I still remember, but it was eye opening to understand that people even looked at you that way because we didn't grow up that way, right? And so people being upset about that being taught. I mean, to be blunt, stop being soft. You can't have it both ways. I don't really pull punches on that type of stuff. That's just being, you know, things happen. You're gonna fail. You're gonna succeed. I think we're raised in a society of people that can't fail. Like, where's this at? And trophies for everybody. When did this happen? No, none of those things to me make sense. Uh, Banning books, changing history, giving out trophies to everybody. None of those make sense. This country is built on entrepreneurship, success. The number one driver of employment is small businesses. Um, and I think that Black people in general were always praying because we didn't always have money. We were barter. We were really the big traders and creators of things, and we were resilient. And so I want to make sure that when I represent what is important about being Black, it's about being resilient. Um, it's about honoring the people that came before us and respecting them. And so looking at people and knowing our history and knowing the people, from musicians to the Malcolm X's to the, you know, the 100-Year War that we fought as from South Carolina all the way through to Florida against the U.S. government to free slavery that nobody talks about in the history books, but you can look it up. And that war is what really led to emancipation proclamation, not Lincoln. The war was because it was like guerrilla warfare on U.S. soil that our U.S. troops are losing to Black Americans who are fighting for freedom. So we had our own Vietnam right here. They were, and the U.S. troops were losing that one. So that's kind of, those are stories I think should be told. This happened here. Let's not let it happen again. Because I don't think if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So I really focus. History to me is one of my favorite subjects. I love history, all of it. Just good, bad, or indifferent. I just love history. It's history. It happened. I don't look at it anyway. I just love hearing about it. Love understanding something from the mentality. What led to that mentality? I'm always the methodology part of this, so it's extremely important to me.
Thank you so much. We are so grateful for your time, and I really appreciate those points you made about our authentic history being valuable and that our past informs our present. So that's, partly why we created this platform because we wanted to share that intergenerational wisdom. We're learning from you, and hopefully you can learn something from us too. But yeah, thank you so much, and we hope to be in
Thank you.
community with you. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.
We deeply appreciate your support as we work to uplift the Black community and explore our unique experiences within the Black diaspora on Identity Unboxed.
Authenticity is your guide to cast an impact on the world that you will be proud of. Signing off with pride, Tiana
And Brad.
Thank you so much.